Right, so we've got Larry here. So Larry is one of my students. So you've been with me for about a month now. I think you joined at the start of August, right? So if you want to quickly
I can
just
tell you exactly.
yeah,
Thir-
quickly, you're good.
39 days.
More precise than me. There we go. Yeah, just quickly introduce yourself, Larry, and your experience with French before joining on. Just a quick thing, and then we're going to get straight into the weekly progress call as we've been doing for the past 5 weeks.
Okay. Okay. Well, as you and I have discussed, I had taken French and had tried to learn French on several occasions with different methods. I went so far as to have a private tutor come in and spent time with that. A native French speaker. I had a neighbor who was fluent in French and he tried. So I tried a lot of different ways and it was always a struggle. I never felt like I was on the right path. Um, and the thing that struck me about you, Rory, was that you had gone on the journey that I was attempting to start, which is to go from an English speaker learning French. And it made a lot of sense to me. If you want to be successful at something, get with somebody who's succeeded at that endeavor. So um, that kind of spoke to me. And I think, as I said to you, I wasn't looking for a teacher. I was looking for a coach that would keep me on the path, keep me motivated, correct any misconceptions that I had along the way, and help me to understand that it was going to be arduous and difficult, but that was to be expected. So, from my perspective, I felt that we clicked when we had that initial phone
Yeah.
call. So here I am. I'm really happy
Yep.
with the progress we're making, and you're doing exactly what I'm looking for, which is to kind of keep me focused in the right way on the right things
Mhm.
and steadily progressing. So that's my story. I'm retired. I was in telecommunications, sales and marketing for 30 plus years, and I think that's enough for me.
Yeah, easy, easy. Before we get onto the call, just one question. Say before you started doing the work with Asimil, we're gonna, we'll get onto that right away because that's the main resource you've been using. Before that textbook, um, quickly, what was the main problem, say you were facing, prior to joining me? Because I know, yeah, you had the tutor. You also had the link platform as well. You were using Steve Kaufman, which was helpful, but say just not, enough.
Yeah, I think that the problem for me was, and I talked to my wife about this, is I don't think I had a real understanding of the difficulty in the journey, and I was going about things not necessarily in the most productive way.
Hmm.
So I was stressing about grammar, trying to understand the structure of the language because, of course, I can speak English. The
Hmm.
grammar's there, and I felt that would get me to where I wanted to be, which is to be able to speak.
Yeah.
My goal isn't necessarily to pass an exam, but to be able to speak. And I thought at the time that the best way to do that was to understand the grammar that was the foundation of the language. And that was my experience with previous efforts,
Hmm.
was spending time on grammar. So
Yeah.
it was a relief not to that's
Yeah.
not to
No
say that
grammar.
grammar's not,
Yeah.
I don't mean to say that grammar's not important. I think it is, and there are points that one needs. But that's kind of what was hindering my progress because it was really depressing, really, because
Yeah.
you study all these rules and you don't know how to apply them. You don't know them in
Yeah.
context,
Yeah.
so
Hmm.
that was
Yeah.
my issue.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Because I mean, you're seeing here that I know when you started, first off, it was a really mindset shift for you, particularly in the first couple of weeks. Just that, okay, we don't have to get every single thing right. We're allowed to make mistakes and keep moving because if we can understand, 60, 70, 80% of a sentence, like that's good enough. In English, we don't understand every word someone says to us, but we can sort of fill in the gaps. Even though we're now, all fluent, you can still fill it in and you can find out a certain word. So similar thing with French. Yeah,
I think that I think a lot of students, myself included, uh, especially as adults, you don't want to seem stupid. You want to be perfect.
yeah,
You want it to be correct. Again, I was having this conversation with my wife about that, and it's hard to let go of wanting to get everything right.
yeah.
That's one of my struggles every week.
Hmm.
I have to pull myself down off of the ceiling trying to get everything correct and say, okay, I kind of got the gist of it and move on. But
Yeah.
that's hard. I mean, I think if I would say anything to you, I think you know this, is to constantly remind people, adults, that one don't want to seem stupid or sound stupid and feel a need to be perfect.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you've definitely just got to let go of the say ego and then just allow yourself to learn really. You just want to get out of your own way, sort of, you could say. Just allow the learning to come to you. Don't force yourself to, say feel bad if you don't know something. And I mean, you've already done really well at not having to worry about those little things and just understand the full gist. So let's crack on now with the usually weekly call. Yeah, so what questions have you had, for the past, say, 7 days? Anything you've run into from what we spoke about last week?
Oh yeah, I do have a few things of the in the lessons. I don't know if we want to
Yep.
spend time on this call because we're recording it, but there were a few things. I think you and I have a different edition of Asimil, I
Yes.
think. So
Hmm.
this may not be helpful, but I'm going to go back, see 309. Wow, I got to go way back. But there was a construction that, again, let's see, construction, sentence 11. So it's an il foudre partir. I
Ah,
mean, whoever's listening to this, I hope they
il
don't get me
voudrait.
on my
Yeah,
pronunciation.
he'd like to leave.
But
Yeah.
it says first wheel. It says it uses il and it uses we, and that confused me.
Ah, okay. Right. Read that out again. It was il voudrait.
D'abord, il faudra partir au petit matin car la plupart des Parisiens seront sur la route et il y aura un monde fou. You probably can't get my French, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's hard to tell. That's
I'll
all
tell
good.
you. So did you get the il foudre?
Ah, no, I got you. Yeah, so I thought you said voudrait, which would be like he wants to, but if you said
No,
faudrait,
fou, right?
faudrait.
Foudre,
Yeah, yeah. So
foudre.
it's a construction. It's il faut. It's like il faut
Yeah,
marcher. It's like you must do this. So it's just an expression. So basically, it's like in Paris, in France, you'll see on signs, it'll say like, yeah, il faut uh, t'arrêter, as in like stop sign. It'd be like a stop sign. Instead of just saying
yeah.
stop, it would say il faut t'arrêter. Here we're saying, yeah,
So
what is it? Il
yeah,
faudrait partir tôt. You must leave early so you escape the traffic,
yeah.
basically. Like, because, in the
Right, right,
morning,
right.
yeah, it's going to be busy at 9 a.m., so we'll leave at 6.
Yeah, yeah. And I got that, but again, I that always trips me up.
Yeah.
When I do the translation. I mean, I got the English translation, so it's not like I don't know what it means, but the construction, it's just kind of like what that.
Yeah, I know.
So that's one of
You
those
need.
things. So that's one of those things where I just have to let it go and say that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Basically,
I
every
sort of,
single time you see a il faut, and then whatever form it is, if it's faudrait, fallait, yeah, there's a couple of others. They're not that important. Those ones are the most common. You're gonna have il faut, il faudrait, il fallait, which is like the past tense. It's just
Yeah,
some rule is gonna follow. It's like, hey, this is the rule or the method that must be followed. Think of it just like a sign on the street, like that the government writes. They're
yeah,
like,
okay.
il faut marcher, like running, for example. Like let's say you're in a part where there's bars and there's drinks and there's people like il faudrait marcher, like there's no running through there, or like at a
Well,
school.
would it not, would you not use a negative? Il ne faut?
Nah, so with this one, nah, we wouldn't use negative simply because um look, it's possible, but usually on signs, like um, you're gonna always see they've just used il faut. It's simply because it's a bit more formal.
Okay.
It's a higher level than saying, you just wouldn't say il ne faut pas and then the opposite. You just say il faut and then the thing. Just like we'd say, instead of a stop sign, like we've got a stop sign, we wouldn't say don't go. We'd just say stop. Same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. So yeah, every time you see that, you can
There's,
just recognize it because it's unique, Larry. So it's not something where you're not going to confuse that with anything. Like that's the rule
no,
every time. So it's good.
yeah.
It's good.
So, I had a couple of others. There's the
Sure.
use of allure.
Okay.
Sometimes it's used differently, and
Hmm.
like on 59, lesson 59, there was a sentence that basically said, I mean, and I understood what it said, but I didn't understand allure in that context. So, seulement deux restaurants grecs existaient alors dans la the neighborhood. I can't say that
Okay.
word the same way.
Okay. Okay.
So I read it when I listened to it, I heard it. There's only two Greek restaurants that existed in the neighborhood.
Mm.
So I got the meaning. That wasn't the problem again.
Hmm.
But when I looked at the written, I didn't understand where allure came in there. What did that?
Yeah.
What was the point of that? Could I have left that out and still got the same thing?
Yeah. Well, is it Alors?
A
Is
L O R S.
okay. Read the English sentence and I'll be able to tell her. Okay.
The English sentence, at the time, there were only two Greek restaurants in the neighborhood.
Okay. And then the French was
Seulement deux restaurants grecs and existiant, however you say that,
yeah.
alors dans la voisinage. Is that how you say
Yeah.
neighborhood?
Voisinage. Yeah, yeah. Close.
Voisinage.
You've been getting better. And I'd say there, all we're doing with the alors, I would be guessing in the previous sentences, you've got something which is talking about how many there might be, or how many there could be, or what goes on in the neighborhood. So it's just like saying, you know, in say the town was busy, or let's say even it wasn't that busy, or but then lots of tourists came in. Now there's two restaurants here. It's like hence there were two
Okay.
restaurants, or so there were two restaurants. It's a non-significant word, so we don't have to
So
worry.
it was a continuation.
Continuation,
That's it's a continuation of a
previous.
conversation,
And
and
this
you're
this is
saying,
where, because at the moment you're knocking on the door of intermediate. So I can see you're picking up on even, okay, that word, like why is it there? And you're thinking,
yeah,
okay, what's the use for that? It's not in the English translation. Very simply, this is where you're joining between multiple sentences. That's where you're hitting intermediate. Like if you're able to pick that
yeah.
up, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty high level because you'd have to follow each of the
I
sentences.
understand it now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get it now, and I understand why.
yeah,
But when you're doing the exercise, it's
yeah.
not in that. It's just a standalone sentence.
You get caught
I
up.
think
Exactly.
if it had been as you described it, and I saw it in the context of the dialogue,
Yep.
I don't understand the use of alors.
It's a structure as well because the structure there,
Yeah,
they've done it a little bit fancy. They've put it at the end and they haven't put it at the start. They could have simply said, alors, il y a deux restaurants dans le voisinage. That would have been
yeah,
fine. But yeah, that's something that they get a bit fancy towards because you're moving on through the lessons now. Because I think you're around halfway through now, and
I'm
this
at
is where
60.
there you go, 60. Yeah, and it's where they're gonna be mixing up those different things because this is all getting you really ready for the real life French. Because when we move on
Okay,
to watching the YouTube videos, doing the say even TV shows, movies, they're not gonna care about the perfect French constructions. They're bringing in slang. They're
yeah.
talking for each other. They're talking loud. They're whispering. They're mispronouncing things, and it's going to be really hectic. So this book is just getting you ready for that. So there's definitely going to be new things. It's getting you ready because in English, like when we're talking here, if you're a non-native and you're only at beginner level, this would be hard to understand for sure because we're talking a bit quick sometimes, and yeah, this is what this book's getting you ready for basically.
So, I this is a question I was going to send you in an email. It's not specific to a lesson. It's just one of those questions
Yeah, of
as
course.
I sent you
Yep.
earlier. And we can talk a little bit about that. I'd like to talk about
Yeah,
that.
let's do it.
But here's a question. Here's one of the questions I was going to send you, and that is, if I understand the spoken French, I can hear it and I understand it without the English, should I still look at the translation? So I listen to it and I get the gist of it, 70-80% of it.
Yep.
Should I still look at the English translation, or should I pay that close
Yep.
attention to it? Oh, what happened?
Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm
Oh,
going to
okay.
share the lesson because then everyone watching can see. Let's just go to a random lesson. Doesn't matter because it's just the structure of it. And that's a really good question because basically, what you're saying here, Larry, is you read through here, you listen to the French for the lesson, and then you're picking up 80%, say, and 80%. So you're thinking, okay, do I need to look over to the English here? Actually, that one's a bad example. It's been scanned terribly. That's better. So you read this, okay, you listen, you got 80%. Do you look over here? I would say, Larry, look over there, but don't spend that much time because there's only a couple of words you just need to check. Because if you're getting 80%, that's awesome. And that means you're at the right spot for the lesson. You could even go further, as in if you're getting 50, 60%, that's still really good on the first time of the French. But once you've got that 50, 60, or 80% in this case, go over to the English, do a quick read, and literally just fill in the words or the structure that you weren't sure on, that extra 20%. So that's what I'd be doing there
Okay.
because it gives you the full picture then. So getting the 80% is awesome. And if you didn't look at the English and you just kept going through and got 80%, that's terrific. But to fill in that extra 20%, that's going to help you and give you that extra knowledge you need for when you're hitting the future lessons. And let's say the difficulty increases. I'm going to scroll down here to like,
Well, wait.
what was it?
What I was gonna, oh, you've gone from it now.
Oh, that's all right. I can
I
find it.
was gonna make a
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah, sure. I've got it right here.
No,
70,
that's
72. Awesome.
yeah. Oh, no, it was about
There we go.
there.
Got it.
So this is encouraging to me. So on sentence number two, I read bien as oh, you know, it was really, I read that as really different
Yep.
than now.
Hmm.
So I didn't do it. And then when I looked over there, I see all that, well, I interpreted bien correctly.
Exactly.
When I read that sentence, I just assumed it was like,
Yep.
oh, it was really different than now,
Hmm.
right? That's how I read that sentence. And then when I
Yep.
look at the English, so I am starting to do that.
Feedback loop.
You
Exactly.
know, I didn't read the English and I read the French in my mind. And I looked at that bien as really. That's how I used it in that sentence.
And that's where, even if you're reading this and you're like, okay, I'm 90% sure I've got everything right, just like you did there, quickly just scan to the English. It's going to confirm for you because you get an instant feedback, right? Like that's what you want. Because then your brain's like, oh, I got it perfect. Lock it in.
Yeah,
So there you go. Because if you didn't look at the English, let's say we just did this and we didn't look at the English, you might be like, oh, I think that's right. I understand what's happening. I think that's right. But then you've got all these doubts going on. I like to just have you come over here and then go, okay, locked in, like perfect. Keep it moving. Like that's great.
yeah. So what I'm starting to do, Roy, is I slowly, and it's slow, I'm starting to not do direct translations word for word,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at it and I'm just kind of intuiting what the meaning is. So, and that
Hmm.
I said, oh, it was really different than now.
Hmm.
That's how I read that. And that's not looking at each individual word. That's just looking at the whole sentence.
The whole package.
So, yeah, and saying that's what it said. And when I looked over there, that's exactly how it was translated. So I've never seen this until you just put that up there. But
Yeah.
see, to me,
Exactly.
that's confirmation. To me,
Yeah.
that's confirmation
Hmm. Yes.
that I'm getting to where I want to be. I'm really happy I'm glad you put that up there because it said something to me that
Yeah. Because
sometimes you don't.
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. You don't realize, right? And this is lesson 73. So you're at 60 at the moment. I mean, this is 13 ahead, and you're already being able to pick it up. When you first started with me, I think your level was in and around the 30 and 40 lesson range. But you said to me,
Yeah,
no, I want to do, start from lesson one and go all the way through. So perfect. You smash through the earlier lessons because they're way easier and a bit smaller. But then, as you're getting through these lessons, they're taking, say, a bit longer. I know we spoke about that last week, where they were taking you, say upwards of 30 minutes. But then through, you just really sitting down and thinking, okay, do I need to get all these little things I'm spending that extra 10 minutes on? Or can I just simply, understand the full sentence, use the English and
yeah,
limit, my time on it really? Because it reduces the stress for you as well, right? Like you don't have to have that pressure of getting every single thing right.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
back to the other question that I posed to you this week, and that is, how does one get to where you actually think in French and I'm not translating it. I'm not translating that sentence into
Yeah.
English. Now, I'm still doing that. So I read it and I knew what it meant. But in my mind, what I understood was in English. And when I confirmed it, when I looked at the English, I said, yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Hmm.
So it, I don't think that, at what point do you start to actually just look at it and not translate it and just know what it is? Does that make
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm asking?
No, 100%. What I'd say is with you getting 80% without looking at the English, what you can say is, okay, if I'm getting 80% of these sentences here, when they're getting to an intermediate level, high beginner, you're locked in high beginner. You're not base beginner anymore. You're high beginner and getting really close to intermediate. Once you're getting to this point, you're using the English less. So you're going to be translating less anyway. Like, I don't see you, if you're reading this and listening to it, and then you pick up and you're like, oh, I think I know that full sentence. And then you come over here and you read the English just to confirm. I don't see that as a translation. I see that as you just ticking off, okay, I got it perfectly. I would see a translation where, okay, if you don't know what is even going on with this sentence, then you translate. So I'd say as you get more and more advanced, you're doing way less translating and more just checking. The difference being for translating, it's really you not even understanding what's, say, going on or like the full sentence, not understanding the full sentence, and then you'd be translating. If you're checking a couple of words, I don't even see that as translating. I'd just say it's checking, So you're definitely going to
Yeah,
be, using you're going to continue to use the English. And in terms of getting into I
Yeah.
know what you're thinking. It's okay, like French brain, French mind, that will come naturally. And that's something where, we're at lesson 73. I'll remember the page number if you want to come back, 297. Let's go to a later lesson where they really do get more advanced and they build your level up. So 109th lessons, this is towards the end, is 113 total. And, when you're out here at these lessons, you will likely be using the English, more than you were in the lesson 73 and the 60 that you're currently up to. But that's normal because once you're getting out to these levels,
Well, I can read. Yeah, but I don't know. I can tell you what I think that says.
yeah,
What
yeah,
is
yeah.
this?
No, you're gonna get close because
I think that's at
Mhm.
9 hours. I peel as a pile or something on Monday morning. Jean-Michel presented the advice. Is that advice?
Nah, a bit different, bit different. Sort of the meeting.
Okay. Then some of the words I don't know. Bonjour, je suis
Yeah,
I'm the new person responsible for this project.
yeah, yeah,
I
no, it's
think that's
close.
what it said.
That's 60%, right? So I mean, this one that just means exact. It's like at 9 o'clock on the dot, Monday morning. He presents himself at you can say meeting, it because that just means reception. Like that's a job.
So I
So
don't know.
um,
I don't know the tout vous. I
yeah,
don't know what.
that's the firm name. So because it follows on from the previous lesson. So this one was a tough
Oh,
one.
okay.
Yeah. But even there, you're getting 60%, right? So that's where you're just continuing to smash through. And what I was saying before is, okay, in this lesson, you might be getting 60, 70%. But once you're up to lesson 100, like you go back to any of these lessons and you're getting, 90%. So now you're barely
Yeah.
using English on, you know, 80% of the lessons prior. So lessons one all the way up to 80, you're basically not using English. And now every single time you go back and repeat those lessons, you're not using English and your French brain is like fully activated. Because honestly, at that point, once you're up to lesson 100, I'd say, okay, when you go back and do any lesson between 1 and 80 or 1 and 60, 1 and 70, just depending on how you're feeling, then you don't even look at the English. And you could do two lessons a day. You could do one lesson, which is lesson 100, for example, and then another lesson you can pick at random. You might go lesson 65. And I'll say, okay, for that lesson there, do not look at the English at all, like full French time. So then you've got 30 minutes using the English a bit for the harder lesson 100. And then lesson 65, for example, on this particular day, where you're doing two a day, just do the French. Don't even look at
Yeah.
the English. And because then at that point you're fully immersed in the French, Larry. So that's exactly what you'd be, doing there. And just as you're saying, that would be important because that's the gap between the beginner and intermediate, being able to think in the French, no doubt.
Okay.
Cool. Did you have any other questions on the actual Asimil lesson here? Do you mind if I take it off the screen, or is there anything else?
You can take that down.
Awesome.
Yeah. I think that I have to say, I think I'm progressing nicely, and particularly if I don't try and hold myself to the standard of having to be perfect. And I'm wired that way. It's really very difficult to let go of that. And which from my perspective, I don't mind spending the time, the extra time to
Yeah.
get it perfect, but I've in the last 2 days I've started to let that go and say, okay, I'm just getting bogged down
Mhm.
and I got to the general gist of it, and I'm just going on and focusing on trying to do the oral, because as I've said to you many times, my reading, I mean, as you took me up to 97 or whatever it is, and
Yeah.
I can read that. I don't know if I heard
Yeah.
it, if I would get that, but
Mhm.
if to read it, well, I can get
Yep.
67%, even though it's 16, 17 lessons ahead of me.
Yeah, because you're
Um,
reading. Yeah, I found this with same thing with lots of my other students. Reading is higher than listening level. So it's just gradually, I mean, we're increasing the reading, but we're just increasing the listening at quicker speed because that's where, I mean, overall, have you found going through, every time you're reading the French, you're listening as well? Have you found that useful? And you've seen your listening level, say, catch up to your reading? It's probably still a bit behind at the moment, but
Still a bit behind.
have you seen it improve
Uh,
overall?
yeah, it's improving. I mean, I do a fair amount of listening in other sources that are, I think what happens if it's really too difficult, then it does me no good. I
Yeah,
mean, if it's over my head, I'm listening, well, it means nothing.
yeah,
So what I've found is I've been going back to earlier lessons on either in the SML or in Link. As you know, I use that Link platform. And I go back, some of the stuff on Link is over my head and it's just ridiculous. But I can go back to the guided stories or whatever, mini stories, and I find my listening is, I get it. I don't need to see it. I don't need to read it. I listen to it. I hear it. I know where I am, what it is. I mean,
hmm
I just know the context. So for me, I don't know. I think what I'm going to do is spend some of my time listening to earlier lessons
yeah,
because I can understand them better, and then my listening, my oral comprehension should improve as I spend more time there. I don't know, but
yeah.
that's kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to do.
That's a good idea because that's exactly what I was just, showing there from your question, which is okay, turning on the French mind. Well, you go back to the earlier lessons and your English is like not needed. So
Right.
you can basically like think about it, right? You're able to read the French without looking at the English. Well, if you want to train your listening, try and listen without reading, or you can listen with reading first, and then the second time round, replaying it, remove the reading, and then just listen. And then you could fill in the gaps in a quick flick on the French afterwards. And where, yeah, you're fully French. You can just close. You don't even look at the English side.
Well, what I'm starting to find this week is this is what works for me in terms of oral comprehension, or at least I think. When I get to a new lesson, I'm starting to read that lesson without listening to it
Yeah.
because there's so much new vocabulary or structures that
Mhm.
I have no idea. So I need some time to try and understand what they're saying and the new structures they're introducing before I listen to it. Because if I listen to it now, the book I think tells you to do just the opposite. They
Mhm.
say listen to it first, and then
Yeah.
the second time you read it. Well, if you don't know what's going on and you can't follow it, then I mean that's just sounds. It means nothing.
Yeah.
But I don't. And I'll put this to you. I'll pose this question to you.
Sure.
It seems like if I read that lesson first and kind of look at the things that I don't understand and look at the English and go, okay, that's what that is, and get through a certain, like the first page, because now it's going over 3 pages. Then I can listen to it and I get it. It's like, okay, first of all, the problem with anybody learning like myself is the subtle sounds in that language as it is in English. If you don't, if you got the wrong consonant at the end of a word, then it's a different word.
Yeah.
And if you can't hear the difference between a T and a D,
hmm
well, you're lost. But if I look at it and I see, so what I've been doing is if I can't hear the word when they say it or to understand it, then I go back and I listen to it and I look at that word to see how are they pronouncing that so that I understand that word because
hmm
I'm making this up. I didn't get that it was a T at the end and not a D, and a
Yes.
T makes it a different word
hmm
as it does in English, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of where I am in the last few
Mhm.
days, and it seems to allow me to progress faster through that lesson because
Yeah.
when I do listen to it, I kind of get it and I know what I'm listening to. I have a sense of what that structure in the sentence is and what it's about.
hmm
Uh, I listen to it 2 or 3 times now because that's really important to me, I think, is oral comprehension.
hmm
I don't mind that it's taken the time
Yeah.
if I get to where I want. as long as I get to my destination, if I
Hmm.
have to take a turn here or a turn there, or take the long way around, okay, as long as I get there at the end, I can understand, I can speak. So
Yep.
so that's kind of where I am, Rory, on that. And
Yeah.
I didn't notice you were left-handed.
Yeah, no, I am.
You are left-handed. I noticed that. I looked at your video and I thought, you know what? He's left-handed.
You can just tell, right? Yeah, I
I
know.
saw it in the video.
Yeah. Hmm. Left-footed as well. Because we well, I mean, we have a unique sport to Australia where it's like Australian rules football. It's kind of like rugby, but it's a bit different. And yeah, left-footed as well. I never played much soccer, but I would, kick the ball with the left foot. And I played some, do you know, cricket? Real English sport.
Yeah.
Played cricket also, and field hockey. So yeah, all left-handed. You're
Yeah,
right-handed?
I was gonna send you a note saying, hey, I'm watching your videos and you're left-handed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You hold your hand, it's the way you use your hands. It's like
It's
I'm
true.
right-handed.
Yeah. Mhm. You can tell when someone's walking, I can tell if they're left or right-handed. It's just a weird thing. I tell my mum and she's like, nah, there's no way you can tell. I'm like, no, I can't. Like it because it's just a positioning of the body, like where they're sort of setting up for, how to walk around a corner, for example. It's interesting.
Well, you could tell your mom that on a video Zoom call or on your YouTube, as saw that you were left-handed.
I know. And you've exposed it to everyone. Everyone knows now.
Oh,
No
sorry.
secret.
Now they're going to go back and look at the videos to see if they can pick it up. That's what's going to
Yeah,
happen.
I know. We should maybe cut this out. See if they can get it.
Um, let's see what else. So, any other thoughts? I think I'm doing,
Yeah.
truthfully,
Yeah.
um, I think I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm getting there. It's the thing is, it's very subtle.
Sure.
Like that sentence that you had up on there, and I read bien as real, it's blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Really, I just read it that way.
Yep.
And that was the context in which it was used. That was the context of it. So I'm getting things in context and not just saying bien means good or,
Yeah, direct. Yeah,
yeah.
holistic. Yeah, it's really it's things where okay, when you were, say, 2 months ago or even 1 month ago when you first started, like something like that, that would have caused you you could say a mini problem, right? Like you would have been
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh my goodness, like I should be getting this. Like I've been learning French for so long as well. And it's really just being easy on yourself and saying, well, no, like I'm allowed to get things wrong. Like this is normal. In order to progress, I need to get things wrong. Otherwise,
Yeah.
everything is way too easy. And I'm just doing, reading like baby books in French for like 3 and 4 year olds. Well, no, we need to bring that up because you want to be able to speak French. Like that's your goal. You want to be able to communicate. So that's normal. And
So,
you've been really good at it.
one other question. It's
Sure.
on the back of my mind. It's not for now. My pronunciation is horrible,
Yeah.
horrible, horrible. How do you get to that? How do you get to where
Yeah.
I have decent pronunciation and accent?
Well, you said before that your, say, listening level is not as good as your reading at the moment. Right. What I'd say is at the moment, your reading level is strong beginner. And what I think is your listening is say a base slash middle beginner. Before we start speaking, basically, we want reading intermediate, listening intermediate. Once you hit that point, that's where once you start speaking, you're going to know the pronunciation before you even speak. As in a way to think of it, I know, because you can't see it at the moment. That's normal. It was just like me when I started. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to say this. But if we took you back to lesson one and we went word by word, I bet like if you listen to the lesson, just literally one line, listen to it, and then you thought, okay, I'm going to try and say this exactly. I'm just going to copy exactly what was said. You would get it pretty close. So after this call, go and try that, and then yeah, let me know via
Okay,
email as you usually do. See if that can give
okay.
yourself a little bit of confidence. Now you're not going to get it perfect. There's no way, but just compare it where you're doing it there to when, maybe 2, 3 months ago, if you had have tried the same exercise, like how you would have gone. Because, you've been focusing a lot on improving the listening, and that's been a main thing for us, really getting rid of the, perfectionism, just toning that down. We don't have to get everything perfect, keep it moving. And then also honing in on the listening, using as much focus as you can to pick that up, to bring the level up. Basically, you're going to start speaking really well, and just being able to flow with it and not be nervous about it or not be scared when your listening is really good. Basically, you're ready to speak once you read the French sentence without the audio and you think, hey, like as I'm reading this, I can pronounce it. Like in your brain, you're going, oh, that's how it said, that's how it said. You're sort of reading in your mind and you're sort of saying it to yourself without even speaking it. And then once you put that to words and you actually speak it after listening to it, so getting that direct feedback loop right away, because there you're listening to how the French person is saying it in the audio, and then you're just going to copy it, then you're going to do well with it. Because I didn't believe it at the start as well. Don't worry. I didn't think I'd be able to speak good, but it works because you're just simply shadowing and it's bringing your listening level up because it's just being able to detect all the sounds, just like you said before.
Yeah,
In English, now we can detect all the sounds because we've listened to so much English, even though we've got
yeah,
completely different accents because I'm from Australia, you're from California, we can still understand each other because we've heard each other's accents before. You've heard Australian accent
right.
before, I've heard American. So that's what I'd say.
Okay.
Does that make
Well, like you
sense?
said, it's boy, it seems a long way away.
Yeah.
But I will go back after the call. I will go back to some earlier lessons and
Literally go to
listen to
lesson
them.
one. Go to lesson
Yeah,
one, Larry. Read the French. Ignore the English. Don't even look at the English because that's easy for you now. Read the French. Listen. Think, okay, could I pronounce this in my brain? Just try and create it. And then listen to it. And then go, okay, how close was that? And then just copy exactly what you heard as you're
okay,
reading. Like read the French and then speak it. Read out loud, just like we did when we were, kids. Like we'd read the words out
right,
loud in the book.
right. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'll let you know in an
Let me know
email
on email.
how that goes.
So yep, Larry, that's the call. Good speaking with you again. Um,
Always a pleasure.
and yeah, it was good to show off some of your skills really. Like you've done well. It's only been 39 days. But honestly, I
Yeah,
think the key thing for you was the mindset shift. You've done
yeah,
really good. And I hope, yeah, the viewers here, I'm sure some of them are really liking this because it's giving some insights into things that, you've gone through or currently going through and working through
right.
really well, that others have experienced and just like you were experiencing prior. So that's really good. So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, if you're, serious about learning French, if you want to apply to team up with me like Larry has, you can book a call in the description. I don't work with everyone. I have a 9 to 5 as well. I wish I could, but I can't. So you can apply. See you later.